Youth Ministry Nation, it's AC. It's my friend Kurt. Let's talk youth ministry.
What's up, dude? How are you? How was church tonight?
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just got out of service.
Yeah, we don't normally do the podcast on Saturday nights after
No.
church, but we've had a hard time getting together lately,
Yeah.
so here we are.
We're busy.
Yeah.
It's a busy time of ministry, and
it shouldn't be. We're heading into the holidays.
It is.
It should be slow. We should be slowing down.
we got new team members.
That's true. High school ministry
High
has
school
done a big
ministry
shuffle with college ministry.
shuffled up and everything. So now we're like putting people in different positions and giving them and stuff. So we're training, we're talking, we're meeting on meetings on meetings.
And you guys did something pretty risky. 2 brand new people on your team, and they both have already taught. Like the one guy, man, he was here. He's been here for 4 days. He's on our high school team for 4 days, and he taught.
Put him right in the fire.
Yikes! And then Hannah's been around for a while, but she just did it full time, and you let her teach tonight. Awesome, and she did a great job.
Leo did a great job.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, what are we talking about tonight?
Okay, tonight,
this week.
First, it's our 25th show.
It is. You're right.
25, number 25.
Weren't we going to have our wives here?
That was your idea.
No, was that my idea?
Okay.
Well,
Kurt almost was sleeping on the couch.
I mentioned it to Rachel in passing. Hey, me and AC have already done 25 little podcasts. We're 24. We're going to do our 25th. Yeah. We want you and Shannon to be on the show. She's like, what you talking about, Kurt? The conversation lasted 2.5 seconds. And that was it. So anyway, it's just us. 25.
I knew better.
You knew better.
It's like
25 little shows.
25, yeah.
We've covered some ground.
It's interesting because I see people going back and watching some of the older shows.
Very cool.
Probably my favorite is you with the robe.
Oh, the robe of knowledge.
The robe of knowledge.
The robe of wisdom.
Okay,
we need to bring that back.
Yeah, I'll probably repost that because I drilled him. 25 questions, didn't I?
Was that? No, it could have been 25 questions.
I think it was 20. Oh, 10. No, it was 10.
Yeah.
10. 25.
Yeah.
Next year, 25 questions.
Okay.
But I drilled Kurt 10 questions and of his 25 years of knowledge or something like that. But he wore this robe and...
It was good. That's fun.
It was funny. At least it was funny.
Okay, so tonight.
Yeah. So...
Today. This week.
This week, tonight, after service.
Yep.
The last 2 shows, I want to say, we dedicated to growing your ministry numerically.
Yes.
Just some ways, nothing new, just some tips. I thought we'd talk about growing your ministry spiritually. And what are some ways that, what are some of the ways that you can help students grow spiritually?
Oh, okay. So we're each going to share a couple tips.
So we're going to share 2 tips each.
2 tips each on how to help them grow spiritually.
How to help them grow spiritually.
All right. Okay.
Why don't you go and then...
Oh, I have to go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I don't think there's any risk that I'm going to say what you're going to say because I think mine might be a little bit different. I think when it comes to spiritual growth or helping kids grow spiritually, and this isn't one of my 2. This is kind of an overarching principle. We talk a lot here in our youth group about helping them grow spiritually on their own.
Yeah. And
trying to have them not rely on us for spiritual growth. And these 2 might be a little bit of a violation of that, even though those are big values for ours. So one, I would say, is putting our students in faith-stretching scenarios. So one of the best ways I think teenagers grow in their spiritual faith is when their faith is kind of put to the test. Yeah. So missions trips, service projects, sharing their testimony in front of their peers, anything we can do to kind of put them in a situation that makes them rely on God's presence. Like, oh, I was so afraid to do that, and God showed up. And when God shows up and a kid goes, God showed up on that missions trip, or I was so afraid to tell my friend about Jesus, and I did, and I just felt the Holy Spirit talking through me. Yeah. I mean, anytime we can put our students in faith-stretching, get them out of their comfort zone scenarios, that helps them grow spiritually. So that's just a real super basic one. Actually, when my buddy and I, Tim, a few years ago now, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, we wrote the book, The 9 Best Practices, based on this massive study that Luther Seminary did about
10?
Not 10, there's only 9. But that's just what the research revealed was these 9 best practices for youth ministries. Awesome. Well, one of the best practices for youth ministries that helps students retain their faith, so kind of like not abandon it after high school, was help them develop a dependence on God's power, basically, which means, in essence, putting them in these faith-stretching situations. So the research showed that, and then you and I and most youth workers, we can just kind of experientially we've seen that in kids' lives.
No, totally.
So that would be one. Just
that's good.
They don't grow spiritually by listening to a great Bible study as much as we wish they would. Right? They don't grow spiritually by just kind of hanging out with their Christian friends. There's aspects of that, but when you put them in faith-stretching scenarios where they're afraid and they need God to show up, and He does, that's a spiritual growth opportunity. Yeah. The other one is, I want to say encourage, but at the very least I would say embrace and leverage their crisis of faith. Oftentimes, we as youth workers, because of our own insecurities, if we're doing a good job, our kids will be solid, they won't question, they won't doubt. Parents think if we're doing a good job, their kid won't question or struggle or doubt. And we actually do our students harm. I think we hurt their spiritual growth when we try to somehow prevent or cocoon them or dismiss their crisis of faith and their doubts and their struggles. Because when you question and you doubt and you wrestle and you struggle, your faith grows. A faith that is wrestled through is a faith that grows, right? And so the best book I've ever read on this topic is a little book. It's, I think, out of print, but you can find them used. I just ordered from the author. I said, do you have any of these sitting around? And he said, yeah. And so he's sending us some.
Oh, awesome.
Is a book, it's probably a 10-year-old book. Eric Venable, he wrote a small little kind of parable book called A Tale of Two Youth Workers. And in that story, he talks about this youth worker being coached by an older, wiser youth worker who basically said, you need to let students have these crises of faith because that helps them grow spiritually. And we know it. I mean, we were just before we turned on the camera, we were talking about a student in our ministry who shared her testimony this week about a crisis she went through. And a struggle she had to navigate, and she had to admit some things and wrestle through it and struggle through it. And as a result, because that was all dealt with in a really healthy way, her growth, her spiritual growth it's been a tremendous source of spiritual growth instead of a hindrance. So put them in faith-stretching situations and embrace, don't be afraid of their crisis of faith, their doubts, their questions, because those are actually growth scenarios.
That's good, dude.
There you go. Those are mine.
No, that's great. I would say my first one would be almost a little bit in line with what you're saying, but just make sure whatever you're teaching has a very applicable piece to it. So if you're teaching on forgiveness, know that students are, they're living life just like we are. They're getting hurt. They're getting hurt. They're hurting people. With what they do and what they say. Maybe they don't know it or not. But have a piece of your message that's applicable that they can either start to walk in right away, right after, and something that they. I think you hit a great point in terms of just wrestling with your faith. I think any time that in order for there to be growth or anything, you have to be kind of like step out of your comfort zone, as you say. And I think that challenge, to challenge a student, maybe it's in forgiveness, maybe it's in sin, like admitting sin in your life, or maybe it's, I did a study on the tongue with my life group guys, and we talked about, simple, what's the worst thing you ever said to your parents? And it was,
did you guys my
I was like, no, but man, I wasn't like thrown off because I know how I was a kid, and I probably would never say anything that they would say, but I thought it. When I went back to my room, and the door was shut, and I stuffed the blanket under it. I said it very quietly in the corner, but I thought the same exact thing that they thought, and so, but I wanted them to do something about that. Grow in it, sit in an uncomfortable place. Go have a conversation with your mom. Have a conversation with your dad.
So if I'm hearing you, you're saying our lessons, whether it's small group lessons or our large group sermons, need to have action steps, applicable steps that they can be doers of the word and not just hearers of the word.
And that week, if possible, Just something that you can attach that helps them grow in that.
I'm not
piece.
I'm not saying this necessarily, but somebody might be. But I think a fair question back would be, are you saying that just hearing the word of the Lord without action steps can't cause spiritual growth? Just somebody teaching through God's word and not making it...
I would say, knowing your audience, one, most students aren't retaining a lot of what you say. I mean, scientifically, they're not retaining a lot of what you say. So when I say the action piece helping you grow, I'm saying you need it to be a part. I mean, the Bible says to be the doer of the word, not just the hearer only. And so that's a way for us to help them in that capacity. If we're just teaching, we can put great messages together. And a student, you were telling a story a while back about a service that you went to, and it was great. It was a lot going on, but you overheard two girls talk about someone who they met or a leader. Say service was great because of this small, minute piece of the service. Right. Well, I think that's every weekend, even in adult service. When you're listening to a message, you probably, whatever is impactful to your life, you take. If nothing touches you there, you just sit. Right. And so help them bridge that gap of, them meeting your message and trying to listen and just give an action step.
So make your lessons applicable, action-based, activity-based learning, so it becomes tangible. Yeah. Okay. And what's your other one?
Then my next one is it's a principle / never mistake, actions for growth. So you have a student in your ministry who's doing a lot of stuff, and this could be the old tale of there's something bigger going on. I mean, the kid is not just doing here all the time for no reason. There is a reason. It could be home or whatever, but it's just to think a little bit. Just because a student is doing a lot doesn't mean that there is growth or that they're
a busy Christian isn't necessarily a growing Christian.
That's a
tweet. That's a
tweet. That's a blog post.
That's a blog post. A book. It went from a tweet to a blog post to a book. You can write the book.
I'm taught to think exponentially.
I'll tweet it. A busy Christian isn't necessarily a growing Christian. You can turn that into a bookcase.
Okay, perfect. But think about that for your students, because I know you have your core students that you love, and we have core, and I love all of my core students. But I want to check in with them. I want to talk to them. I want to know, okay, how is your quiet time? What are you studying in the Word? I'm checking up, because I can easily dismiss all of that because they are present. Yeah. And I can put all my energy into the students who aren't there, or into the students who I think are doing bad things that I need to reach out. Well, you have core students there who are busy and aren't really growing, and then you look up, something crazy happens that they do, and you're like, what? How did that happen? Right. Well, it slipped under your nose because we were looking at what they were doing and how active they were, and not really asking some tough questions.
Well, that goes back to the same testimony, the same student that I just mentioned.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Yep. She was checking off all of our youth group things. There was no student who, on the surface, we would have thought is growing closer
than this student.
And yet she wasn't. She was actually going backwards in some key areas, right? So now we can't wrap it up without me also saying, because we did talk about on your own. I mean, we do have this our whole habits thing, right? I mean, I think one of the things I would try to get students to do to grow on their own is to develop some spiritual habits, some spiritual disciplines, and we have a whole thing where we have an A. The H is for hanging out with God, the A is for attending church, the B is for being generous, the I is for investing in Christian friendships, the T is for telling your story, and the S is for serving others. And now we would say, you do those things, and you will grow. However, just like what you just said, we've got kids who are probably checking off every one of those.
Totally.
And sometimes I think, I can get myself in trouble here, because I'm just going to say, I don't know. I think you can be growing and struggling simultaneously.
Oh, completely.
Right? I mean,
I would say
doing those things will help you grow.
Oh, yeah.
Even though other areas in your life, it's like a boat with an anchor.
Yeah.
if you hit the gas hard enough, the boat can still go forward, even though there's an anchor holding it back.
Oh, totally.
It's just not performing the way it could.
I always look at it as, there are areas that I struggle that I don't really know, I'm not aware of.
Right.
And I can be growing really great in a lot of different areas, but neglecting the ones that I don't, which all Christians do. We will do that until Christ comes to take us home, or until we go home first.
Okay.
I want to be here when Christ comes. I don't want to go.
I know.
But we do that all the time. We're growing, but we're also, those things. Now, I would say it's important for you to be doing the habits. It's important for us to put that in front of students and teach them those habits, because when you do fall in those areas, those habits, attending church, the community that you have.
That's what helps you.
Huge.
That's what helps you get rid of this.
That's a part of helping you. Hang time with God. That's gonna help you. Confess quickly, which is what we're called to do. Like when you're hanging with God and it's a conversation all the time, man, I screw up big time. God, I screwed up. Yeah. Man.
It's good, dude. Okay, so what if somebody wants to email us? We don't talk about the email address, but we need to. Somebody wants to email us and ask us a question that they want us to talk about on the show, or a topic that they'd like us to cover. It's talkyouthministry.
talkyouthministry@gmail.com.
talkyouthministry@gmail.com. Where can they find all the shows and subscribe?
talkyouthministry.com.
Oh, really? It's all on there?
Yeah.
There's a website?
It's our YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you go to, you'd have to go YouTube / Talk Youth.
Or just go to YouTube.
Or just go to YouTube.
Google Talk Youth Ministry.
Yeah, Talk Youth Ministry. They're all there.
And is there a thing on the screen right here?
There's a thing on the screen.
You said that last time and there wasn't, by the way.
It wasn't?
No. So is there this time? Because I'm pointing.
There is one,
okay.
Right
there.
Right
so
there.
they can click on that to subscribe.
Click on that to subscribe and
great. All right.
Contact with us.
See you next time.
See you.